for September 10th to order. Just a note that these meetings may be recorded and are posted on our website or social media. Also want to make a note of procedure since we have lots of people here. Just so you know, this is not a public hearing. If the board chooses to hear from somebody, a member of the board can put a motion forward and the board will vote on that, and then that will open that process up for the public. So everybody's clear on that. So looking for an adoption of the agenda, if there's any additions or deletions.
I'll move.
Mr. Reichert moves. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Looking for an adoption of minutes from August 13, 2019. I was not in attendance.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? That's carried. We'll move on to development permit applications. We'll be looking at file number DP 2019-014 for a dwelling accessory with a variance request. Whenever you're ready.
Good morning. So this application is located southwest 42220, approximately 6 miles east of Cluny. It is on currently a 156-acre parcel, but this application is being made as the result of a subdivision for a 9.49-acre parcel. So in order to have 2 dwellings on a parcel less than 80 acres, one of them must be issued a permit as a dwelling accessory. So the only variance requested for this application is because the dwelling accessory is not supposed to be greater than 80% of the size of the primary dwelling, and this one is about 89%, so we had to request a variance here. The only other thing of note is that Alberta Transportation has the authority over Highway 1, which is on the south side of this property, and the dwelling is pretty close to a service road dedication that they have requested. However, they were circulated and they have no issue with the location of this existing dwelling. So I will go through the rest of the report here, all of the legislative requirements. It is a discretionary use in ag zoning. There is the 8.7.2, which stipulates the gross floor area ratio. And we did circulate Alberta Transportation. We did have just the one comment from a planner regarding the Alberta Transportation setback. So staff are proposing 3 options and are recommending that Municipal Planning Commission choose option 1 for a dwelling accessory with a variance to the gross floor area ratio subject to the conditions in Appendix A, which are here. And the only one that is out of the ordinary is this variance, which is allowing for the 89% gross floor area ratio. So here's a location. It is east of Cluny. There is the parcel and area photo. There's the primary, and there's the proposed dwelling accessory. This is the number 1 highway. This is that service road dedication that they requested. It's outside of the CMRB area, outside of any ASPs or IDPs. This was our circulation area within 1 mile. And these are the 2 dwellings. The dwelling accessory proposed, and it's an older home, and then the primary dwelling. And there's our Alberta Transportation response. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
No, but I'll move that MPC choose option 1 to approve DP application 2019-104 with the conditions noted in Appendix A of the DP report.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Call the question. All in favor? It's carried.
And now we are on DP 2019-109 for a dwelling accessory again. It is located approximately 2 miles east of Nameka, It is currently an 86-acre parcel. This is again one of the conditions of their subdivision approval for a 29-acre parcel. So once again, 2 dwellings cannot be located on a parcel that is 80 acres or less, so they have to get a permit for one of them to be a dwelling accessory. This one doesn't need a variance. The gross floor area ratio is fine. There is a requirement that you meet a CSA standard of A277, which was instituted in 1992. This dwelling accessory is older than that. However, it is existing, and the bylaw does allow for certain exemptions from that rule, which it does meet those exemption requirements. So here's our legislative review and our discretionary use there. This is the exemptions that I spoke about. There was no concerns from internal file review. There was one from an adjacent neighbor who had some concerns with just too many dwellings in the area and the traffic impact of that. So that's included as Appendix I. Staff are recommending approval of DP 2019-109 for a dwelling accessory, subject to conditions noted in Appendix A of this report, which are here. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Here's the location east of Nameka. This is the land. So here's the proposed dwelling accessory, existing, proposed primary over here. That's their site plan. And it's outside of CMRB, outside of any ASPs. Here was our circulation area within a mile. This is the proposed dwelling accessory established on the property and the primary dwelling. And here we have the letter from the concerned resident. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Board have any questions?
I'll move that MPC approve development permit application DP 2019-109 with the conditions noted in Appendix A of the development permit report.
Thank you. Any discussions on the motion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. We'll move on to file number DP 2019-011, -110, Campground Major 64 RV sites. Whenever you're ready.
Good morning, MPC. I do have 2 additional letters that Graham is just handing out. I'll just give you guys a moment to review those. One from AHS and one from the applicant.
Thank you. We'll just give a couple more minutes to review. Everybody's good? So I think we'll let the report go forward, and then if there's any questions on this after, we can ask them. Is that good for everyone?
Perfect.
Proceed with the report, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So this application is DP 2019-110, the purpose of which is to complete construction and to bring into compliance 64 RV sites on the east side of LSD, 5 and 6, Southwest 33, 22, 25, west of the 4th, considered to be a campground major use, which is discretionary under the Parks and Rec District. Staff is recommending that MPC choose option 1 to approve DP 2019-110 for a campground major, subject to conditions noted in Appendix A, and based off of conversations and the letter that I just handed out, with an amendment to Appendix A, but I'll discuss that when I finish reading through the report. So this is the location of the campground just off of Range Road 254, north of Highway 901. And this is an aerial photo, the location of the 64 RV sites. And then this is the full site plan, which I will keep, keep up for you guys there. There we go. So this is a discretionary use application listed under the use campground major in the Parks and Recreation District. The landowners are proposing 64 RV sites within the east half of LSD 5 and 6, southwest 33, 22, 25 with related services, and altering previously approved recreational facilities for the existing 256 site campground, including altering the 9th hole of the golf course and removing the baseball diamond. The proposed development would extend campsite development into the east half of Oasis Grove, formerly called Darren Acres. Apologies if that's said incorrectly. The total number of campsites for the entire revised campground major will be 320, in accordance with the submitted site plan and supporting application materials. The application was originally issued a development permit in 1979 for 180 campsites. In 2002, a development permit was issued approving a proposal to develop their east half of their property into a 6-hole golf course, driving range, and other recreational facilities, which proposed to include mini golf, pitch and putt, football, soccer field, and a tennis/basketball court for the campground patrons and community use only. The application package included material that the development included 300 campsites. In 2013, a permit amendment was issued to authorize 9 holes of golf instead of the 6 holes approved in 2002. Some related development has been authorized over the years as well, such as a shop building, golf course, alcoholic beverage cart, pro shop, reception area, golf cart repair and storage building, and a pool and chemical shack. The landowner submitted a development permit application in 2017, DP 2017-115, for an additional 64 RV sites. The 2017 development permit application was ultimately approved with conditions by SDAB. However, the 2017 permit expired due to the landowner not completing the conditions prior to the expiration date. The landowner continued to develop the 64 sites and open them to RV camping in 2019. The county issued a stop order on June 27, 2019, in order to start enforcement on the unauthorized development. In response to the stop order, the landowner submitted a development permit application on July 12th that was deemed incomplete. County staff requested additional information, which was provided by August 7th. The proposed 64 sites on the east side have been partially developed, but the work to date has not been professionally reviewed by the county or its consultants. Septic holding tanks and the associated pipes for conveying sewage and water tanks, and the associated water shutoff valves, spigots, and pipes for conveying water to service the sites have been installed. Vertical netting and the campsite pads have also been installed. The landowners have permitted overnight accommodation and day camping on these 64 sites despite the active stop order. Staff would like to know that since writing this report, the landowners have supplied the email and a photo of the posted sign notifying users of the 64 campsites that overnight accommodation and day camping are not permitted, as per the stop order. However, staff has not had the opportunity to go out and do a site visit since the sign installation to see if the campground users have vacated. The landowners have intend to install 50 amp power to each site. Their proposed long-term solution for potable water will be to connect the 64 sites to the water system that services the 256 campsites, drawing water from the existing well. Year-round permanent residency is not permitted as per the submitted letter of intent, which is further stipulated through the regulations in the Land Use Bylaw 2016-01 for campground major. 1 RV will be permitted per site with parking for 2 vehicles. The landowner originally submitted 2 site plans, one showing the entirety of the property and the existing proposed development with 266 sites in a storage area adjacent to Range Road 254. The open storage area was not included in the letter of intent and is not permitted with the Parks and Recreation District, so the landowner submitted a revised site plan, which you see here, for the west half of the parcel that aligns with the letter of intent. This site area also includes a dog run area adjacent to Range Road 254 there. So the revised site plan shows the 256 existing sites, the location proposed for the dog run, and it shows the whole parcel there. So you can see all of the golfing holes, the proposed 64 sites, and the redesign of the number 9 hole there. As part of the application submission, the landowner also submitted technical reports that were previously submitted for the 2017 development permit application for the campground. The peer reviews completed for those technical documents are still relevant, and the comments from these reports were reiterated to the landowner and were included as development permit conditions. 3 additional reports were submitted with the current application: an updated TIA, a water system report, and a wetland delineation report, which were also reviewed by the county's engineering consultant. So staff did receive several letters from current leaseholders, adjacent landowners, and one of the lien holders. They were all included in the package. Alberta Health Services submitted their comments after the package was submitted, and that was handed out to you just now for you to read. Staff feels that the AHS's concerns will be addressed through the proposed conditions adequately. Staff has had conversations with the landowner based on the TIA and condition number 9. I'll just pull that up right now. Maybe. So the landowner had concerns over condition 9 regarding having to construct a type 3C intersection at the Highway 901 and Range 254. They are under the impression that the numbers that were provided by the engineer are incorrect. Through reading the TIA, the recommendation is to have the type 3 intersection built. However, that is based on Alberta Transportation's turning warrants. Based on the engineer's study, they do not feel that an intersection upgrade is required. I haven't received a comment from Alberta Transportation. I did phone them this morning to see if I couldn't get a comment from them yet, and did not. I was not able to reach them. So what we are proposing is to amend condition 9 and to add condition 10, taking out the requirement to build that type 3 intersection and softening a bit so that if the TIA is updated and it still says that a type 3 intersection is needed and Alberta Transportation requires that type 3 intersection, then they'll still be required to build it. But if the new TIA or the updated TIA says that it's not needed and Alberta Transportation is satisfied by that, then they won't have to construct it. So those are the amended condition 9 and the addition of condition 10. I think that pretty well covers it. I don't have anything else to add unless, so that concludes my presentation. If MPC has any other questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Board have any questions? Go ahead.
Are you able to enlarge that a little bit just so I can, thank you.
Yeah, through the chair to staff. Under your construction management plan, it has number E, it has firefighting procedures, but I would prefer, if this was going to go through, that there be a full emergency response plan, just not what they're going to do about fire, because they will not be able to handle a major fire in that area. So they need to put together an emergency response plan. Is how our equipment and our staff, and I would love to have our staff review their plan and agree with what it is. I think it should be separate from the construction management plan. I think it should be a standalone emergency response plan to cover more than just fire.
Yeah. So through the chair, their firefighting procedures is in part of condition 13 is specifically for the construction management. So while they're doing construction of the 64 sites, if you would like to have an emergency response plan for the entire parcel separate, we can request that.
What I'd like to see.
Where will we put that if we were to add something like that to this, if the board so chooses to vote on that?
Can that not go under Appendix A?
Yeah.
Through the chair, it would be a new condition.
Okay. So how would you like to put a motion forward on something like that?
Well, just an amendment to that they have a full emergency response plan for the site. reviewed by our staff.
Through the chair, I would recommend we can use this right now as a motion master, so we can start typing up potentially an amendment or a new condition here, so that you can see that and it would be palatable to the board. In addition to that, if you are seeking to place a new condition, I would recommend prior to occupancy to receive that plan and to the satisfaction of the county, if that is to the board's liking.
Yep, that's fine by me.
Is there anything else that anybody have any questions about? Go ahead.
So to staff, through the chair, what is, it mentions Range Road 254, but the other road going west and east, I can't remember the number now, is where I'm getting a lot of complaints, Township 230. Is there anything in there? There's nothing in the conditions about any dust abatement there. That seems to be the route everybody's taking.
Through the chair, no, we didn't include any conditions. We did supply, or we did obtain some traffic counts, so I can read those numbers for you for what they're worth.
Sure.
We did it over the September long weekend.
This September long?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So if you look at the screen, we set up traffic count here and then one up here. The numbers show that more folks were traveling along Range Road 254 to go to Highway 901 than they were heading north, uptown, like basically towards Township Road 230. So, northbound. So the south location, this one down here, the folks leaving the campground, there were 840 between Friday and Monday. And then the folks heading into the campground or up the road basically were 830. And then on the north location here, the folks heading north towards Township 230, there were 306. And then the folks heading south from Township Road 230, there was 269. So a little bit less than half.
But those counts still warrant dust abatement, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, so through the chair, as Megan mentioned there, those are actually total values. If you break it down to an average annual daily traffic count, south we have 352 vehicles per day, and north of the site we have 128, just based on our county traffic counts. As far as applying dust control condition, it is up to the preference of the board here. Our policies in the land use bylaw allow for dust abatement to be placed on as a condition on development permit application. Our public works, the county, if we just look at that, we do apply our own dust abatement at anything over 100 vehicles if we have safety concerns and the traffic warrants it. So those are just two references you can rely on for making your decision here.
And if I'm correct, it'd be 5 residents along 230, going from 254 to 817. It'd be 5 residents, right?
Through the chair, we'd have to confirm those numbers. I don't think we have those off the top.
I believe it's 5 residents.
We can, go ahead.
Yeah, if you would look at-
I understand that the owner of this property will supply dust control, or what's your comments? We're not supplying dust control for them, are we?
I don't believe that's the intent. No, this would be development cost.
Is it a condition or is it a maybe?
That's for the
We're working that out.
It was my understanding that actually the campground owners before these owners actually did do dust abatement for their neighbors,
Gotcha.
but it hasn't been done.
I'm sorry, there's no comments from the public unless the board decides to hear that. Okay, thank you.
So they're not too far from the paved surface, and yet from going through this application, there's going to be, what, 600 vehicles on, could be 600 vehicles on that road every day. This is a permanent, basically permanent, and they'll be going back and forth morning and evening. So that dust control should be right to the highway, and it should be supplied by the, any question on that?
Just to follow up on Ben's point, if I may, there with the item in number 8 in Appendix A, it's 400 feet minimum for each resident and then 500 feet for north of 901. That leaves a lot of gaps. You, like Ben says, you might as well just go right from the campsite right down to the 901.
My understanding from grading perspective, it's harder for the grader operators when it's broken up so small as well.
Yeah.
They have a greater difficulty maintaining it because of that as well. It's just something to keep a note on. Go ahead.
I have two questions. So under the transportation comments on page 46, where it says also, although the 20-year post-development traffic counts warrant a paved structure under Alberta transportation standards, I would like to see a condition of dust abatement measures be installed in front of existing residences to the south. I don't know enough about this. Is there a way to ensure that when those traffic counts warrant a paved structure, that could be a developer responsibility? I don't know.
How would that be based?
Yeah, sure. So through the chair, I mean, we prefer not to have a condition of that nature tying the developer in the future to that expense. It is quite a substantial expense. These conditions, as I mentioned there, I was just referencing the TIA that was submitted, where there was a note of over 500 vehicles per day estimated under their submitted traffic impact assessment. The county, as of right now, does not have any triggers for paving of a road. We don't have a 500 vehicle and then we look at pavement. We do look at roads lower than 500 based on traffic counts if we feel the need is there for a paved structure. So to put that condition on this, it would be quite hard to
As a
enforce
future
in the
condition.
future. Yeah.
And Mike, what is the cost of 400 feet of dust abatement this past year?
Well, they're 67, no, 467.
The county costs, I believe, were $2 a foot, so we're
But
around.
for a business, what would it be? Or for a resident?
Around $700 per application.
700?
Yeah, short of the labor. The labor is at the county cost. We typically only charge for the product when we apply dust control.
This cost
So looking at the condition here, we've requested that the developer, as we have in previous applications, pay for the application of calcium and apply through the county, and we use our own contractors to apply that. We find that as a simpler way of managing the application of dust control.
So this condition could be added to go on Township Road 230 also? In front of residents?
If that's the board's decision, definitely. Yeah, we can have that as an additional condition added.
I just have one other, are you okay? I have one other question. Under our land use bylaw, under campgrounds, under 8.21A, it notes that adjacent site conditions, and what I'm mainly concerned with, excuse me, is the interface with neighboring uses should be a key consideration when determining the appropriateness and suitability of a site for a proposed campground development. I'm just looking at some of the adjacent ratepayers' concerns. I'm wondering if there, and I went through the conditions fairly carefully, I'm just wondering if there's any conditions that could help mitigate some of those adjacent landowner concerns. Specifically, I noted, like with garbage, I know we're talking about the traffic is absolutely a key one that was noted by adjacent landowners, as well, like stray golf balls. I'm just going to those letters.
Is that somebody's car honking out there? Just sorry, it's driving me nuts.
Can't hear it.
Well,
Traffic was certainly noted as a key consideration. A fence in disrepair and an eyesore. Golf balls from the adjoining golf course, things like that. I didn't know if there would be a way to integrate a condition that could help mitigate those issues.
So a couple of things through the chair.
Go ahead.
Those concerns, we could suggest an overarching condition that nuisance, as per our nuisance bylaw, be adhered to, something like that in terms of relating back to our nuisance bylaw, litter, etc. To note about the traffic concerns, obviously we do react to concerns from residents and constituents as quickly as possible. So in fact, if there are concerns that are raised as we proceed through this with regards to other higher traffic volumes on areas perhaps potentially that we didn't capture through our conditions, we will in fact go out and do our own due diligence and check, because we do react to those concerns, just as an FYI to the board in terms of our internal operations. So we can relate to the nuisance bylaw.
So much like anything else we do with, if there's complaint driven, if we have bylaw officers that can deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
That is correct.
Just the board is aware there's some of the audience would like to speak. If anybody wants to make a motion to listen to the public, we can do that. I'd entertain that. If not, we'll just keep proceeding.
Have we finished the dust control? I'm still not clear on how the dust
Yeah, I'm
control
not
is
sure
being
either.
No,
done.
I'm just kind of hearing everything, and then we'll kind of go back, because I do believe we're making notes as we're going and kind of refine that after, if that's correct.
well,
Or if you want to stay focused on one at a time, we can do that. Go ahead.
Maybe should inform them of the process, that this is appealable, and then that way the public is more informed, and they have an opportunity through the appeal process. I'm not sure how, maybe Matt can explain that so they do get a chance. Not everybody's here now to make it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's correct. So, I mean, the chair did outline right at the start, right? I'm not sure if individuals in the gallery there at the time, but it isn't a public hearing process. But as per our a procedural bylaw that is captured within our MPC, there is discretion, right?
And this process
As per
is
the board.
appealable through.
As per the process, is
SDAB, if it
appealable
has to
through
be.
SDAB.
Yeah, through the chair, as much as he would like to speak, once you open the floor, you have to open it to everybody, because
Absolutely.
it's back and forth, and some of the people, if they knew it was if the public had a chance to speak, somebody may be here that isn't here. So I would say, I'm sorry, but no.
And that's at the start, basically I said this is not a public hearing, because a public hearing has a process, the notification for everybody to attend. It's the way this runs. But also in our procedure, if someone so chooses to hear any information at the time, we can vote it as a board, so I just made that clear. That's all that is. So, moving forward then, go ahead.
sorry if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead.
I just believe, to finish off the dust control on that range road at least, and I fully understand that you want it on the township as well, but I would like to see the number 8 condition totally redone into everything south of the north property line of southwest 33, 22, 25, west of the 4th to the 901 be fully in dust control.
Say that one more time.
So the north property line of the parcel right down to the number, the 22X.
And there's also a mention of the east-west road as well.
And Donna can speak at that.
So Range Road 254 South.
Yeah, and I don't know if that would entice, I don't think it would entice people enough if they're going to Strathmore or going to town that they would take it south and then 901 and then up. I think they're still going to go north, and that's what, that's where the complaints are.
Only another half mile.
I mean, you got to think too, this is 320 sites. This is the same size as Speargrass, potentially, right? We got to be careful. We don't want to, and I know it's been there, but we do want to make it neighborhood friendly, like make it so everybody can live together there. And I think maybe that's been avoided or overlooked in the past.
So what would you like to see?
And I don't know the cost to dust abate everything down to 901, but I think the cost for dust abatement on all residents surrounding from 254 to Township 230 is doable. So at least all the residents and in front of the campground does have dust abatement. Any thoughts?
Through the chair, I would just as soon see it go from the south property line to the 901, inclusive. If
The
you're-
south
Well, it's their entire property,
Or all residents?
all the way up to 901. Because that amount of traffic, when you get that amount of traffic, if what I'm looking at in their application, the dust doesn't just hang where you're driving, it follows you, every one of those residences, if you only do the 300, 400 meters, the dust that vehicle creates will follow them across that. It'll abate in front of it to some extent, but it will follow them and it will pick up again when you get to the gravel area that's clay and dusty, and it will carry on to the next. So if they get the traffic on there that I'm assuming they're going to get, you need to put the dust control right out to 901.
Yep. That yellow line.
From their south property line.
I've got a question, excuse me, for administration with this. There seems to be some confusion about whether the traffic impact assessment we have is current, like it's under debate now. Is there any way we can firm up these numbers? Because depending on what we had earlier, we've got there's going to be construction have to be done on the intersection and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just wondering if there should not be a current one that's not done in January that shows us exactly what the traffic impact is, and then we can go forward on that. Because I firmly believe that if we do a traffic impact assessment, and then the dust control should be on par with anything we do in the county. If there's 353 vehicles a day going south, that road would be paved. At the minimum, it would be MRO, right? It would be some sort of a permanent, because this is a lot of traffic, and it's going to be continuously done, and we're putting a lot of on the ratepayers that are in the area. Like you say, we have to eliminate the dust, I think, but is there some way we can get a current traffic assessment done so that we know exactly what we're up against? I know we have our traffic counts, but they're in the Oasis Grove is contending that they're not accurate. So I'd really like, we're coming out of this. I believe I'm coming out of this at a place of ignorance because we don't know what the traffic impact is.
Through the chair, one thing that I do know is that if this was a developer coming in here building a residential area, the development would take time. It would take probably 10 years to develop it up. This one, if it goes through, can have all that traffic there within a week if the sites are all sold. Because all it takes is somebody to pull a trailer out there, park it, and you can start driving there. You can have that traffic immediately sitting there. We don't need a traffic assessment to understand how much traffic is going to be coming out of there. We know how much is going to be coming out of it. Because these aren't weekend campers. They're going to go out there and live there. They're going to spend most of their time there in the summer, so they're going to be traveling back and forth daily, not once a week or twice a week. This is going to be going on daily, and probably more than one vehicle per site in a lot of cases. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't care whether it's pavement or oil or dust abatement, that whole thing should be done. And the cost should be covered by the applicant.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Megan.
Through the chair, just the TIA that we received with this application was an updated version of the one from 2017, and the numbers were taken in August 2nd, I believe, is when they submitted the report. So they did have time to kind of look it over the summer. Thank you.
Go ahead.
If the county was putting dust control on, I'm sure for this many people, if we'd always required a developer to do it. We would do the total road because these people have to drive in the dust too, and that's a safety concern for me and for the area residents. And it's a farming community. The county probably would pave a road. I would be in favor of it because it shows over 20 years it's the cheaper method, right? But pavement is still at the discretion of the owners here. They can pave if they want, if they see it's more cost effective, but they have to enter. Not going to be happy unless it's dust control from the 901 to the 817, the total thing. There's a feedlot there with cattle in there. They don't need to be sitting in the dust. It's a safety concern for me. And again, it's appealable. They don't like it, they can appeal it and go through that process. But I would say at the minimum, calcium. If they want to oil it, that's their discretion. They can run the spreadsheet and they can figure it out what it's going to be. But if the road is sound, the cars driving on it, I don't think will pound the road out like heavy machinery. I'm thinking the road is it says it's sound enough. Calcium will last, but I'm not in favor of patchwork.
So you're more looking on full dust control?
Yeah, 2.5 miles it would be.
For the north-south and the east-west, or just the north-south?
Yeah, otherwise the feedlot's left out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right, and there's a considerable traffic there too. And the feedlot would be on the south side, prevailing winds west and north. If it was on the east side, maybe a little leniency, but no. For me.
That being said, I also understand that the $1.50 is just the material. I don't believe that we should be donating our labor as well to a developer. I believe the developer should be paying full cost recovery of this dust control, which would be 4 maybe. Because we do this for our residents, and I would be very curious to see how many of our residents own those lots. And if we're gonna donate our labor for all developers, I mean, that's a big issue.
Well, my suggestion was at the developer's cost, and that meant everything, not just
Cost recovery, right?
Full cost recovery
Yeah,
of labor.
that was my assumption.
I didn't mind the full, that, just for the fact that the residents, and the feedlot and everybody they all use that road. But the main expense should be to the development. But there is our ratepayers that still use that road too. So I didn't mind the shared, but.
So I'm hearing 901, 22X north to 254 from the intersection of 230, 254 to 817. What I'm hearing,
Yes.
full dust control,
Yes.
calcium and or any product that we may use in the future. Because I know there was some other product they were talking about.
Yeah, I do agree that the patchwork probably wouldn't be as,
So it is a problem for maintaining
Yeah,
that road
for
in a
maintenance
proper
and,
manner, because we've encountered that in several other areas of the county when you get multiples. I know the grader operators have a difficult time maintaining a drivable surface that's the same, because they can't maintain dust control as often as they can. But with a full surface, it would give them an even playing field, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think through the chair, just a comment to what Donna said. If the campground wasn't there, if there was nothing there, we probably wouldn't be dealing with any dust control. The landowners probably don't have an issue with it. The issue about dust control is simply because of what's being
that's true.
proposed.
Yeah, you're very true. What?
So then basically, in number 8, traffic impact assessment road improvements, we would do essentially what we just said.
And just to put that in perspective, that's 12,865 feet times 3 was, say, 40,000.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
So they've shown it on the map there.
So, Mr. Chair, so we're just getting some amendments typed up here. So what I'm hearing is for a major amendment for condition 8 is just the full periphery, and that is X amount of feet.
12,865.
I wouldn't trust his math.
That's fine.
Just
So
saying.
It's that thing right there.
yeah, so the full periphery essentially.
To take us both back to both pay services, right?
I also heard, just for clarification, and I don't know if we captured it on the motion master yet, but a generalized overarching condition added to reference our nuisance bylaw. I don't know if there was discussion on that, but that was a suggestion from administration to member link.
I'm not sure if that's really necessary, because that process is in place, but whatever, we can have discussion on that.
My only rationale was I know our challenges sometimes in dealing with remediation through the nuisance bylaw. I wasn't sure if dealing with it through a development permit might give it more traction for enforcement, was my rationale.
I put it through the chair, I don't think it's fair to do it that way. We have a nuisance bylaw in place. If there's a nuisance, we deal with it. I don't think it's fair to that ratepayer or any ratepayer to say, oh, by the way, if you screw up, we have a nuisance bylaw, or we have a traffic bylaw, or we have a dog bylaw.
I think I apologize, I think where we could consider it as part of the development is because in the land use bylaw, one of the key considerations is interface with neighboring uses. So that was my rationale, is because that is right in our land use bylaw. And it would just be a way to mitigate. We're aware through some of the letters submitted from adjacent landowners that there are current issues that, and the cumulative effect of that could increase with increased sites. So that's my concern.
It's our due diligence would to make sure that our bylaws are up to standard, that they would deal with any of those issues, but as you may end up with an issue with dogs from a place that big, the dogs wandering all over the place packing and doing that, you don't put in any specific issue in there about. I think our bylaws are in place for that reason, and if there's a complaint, they're dealt with accordingly.
The only thing I can see with bylaw, just in long term, there might be some cost implications if we had a number of complaints on the weekend and staffing and things like that, which I don't believe at this moment is an issue, but I do believe that our bylaws and our enforcement officers have the ability to deal with any complaints at the moment and in the future. And of course, we get reports back to council from that, what's going on. And there's a whole procedure that goes with that. So I'm comfortable with the way it is. Other discussion? So far, we have basically just focused on the dust control, the change of that. Anything else that we see? Do we need to go through each condition? Make sure we're comfortable with everything? Again, I believe the goal in mind is to have everybody address the neighboring concerns and have the development brought up to speed, so to speak, or brought up to proper process.
The question as to why we're changing, usually as I see Mike has asked them to change it from developer to landowner. Why are we going to landowner, not developer? Is not that, don't we usually say that it's at the cost of the developer? There's more than one landowner along there.
I think because of ownership of the campground, I would say it has to be the owner.
Part of the development permit, he buys the development permit.
Yeah.
When he buys that campground, that's part of the development permit.
So through the chair, our reference is developer. That's what we've been referencing, and that's the overarching capture in terms of getting everything in order and making this ironclad.
Okay, I'm fine.
So they're
with
just
it.
highlighting
There's no
point
way for them
3
to get
there in
around
the
it 5
appendix.
years from now and argue it in
Yeah.
okay.
I wouldn't mind more discussion about that type 3C intersection and the
Absolutely.
kind of debate around the validity of the traffic impact assessment from 2018 August.
My understanding of it is the traffic impact assessment was supplied by the developer, if I'm correct. So it was an engineering company that supplied that information. And now there's a question of whether that is current information. We do have some of our own data from staff. It just takes just a snapshot of traffic over a long weekend, which I think is deemed appropriate. So yes, what exactly further?
So not having read the traffic impact assessment, what did the estimated numbers from the engineer compare, like relatively compared to what our traffic counts looked like for the most recent long weekend? And just noting too, like the weather wasn't excellent on September long weekend. Like anecdotally, I know of people that did not camp on the long weekend because the weather was less favorable than it might be on an August long weekend or July long weekend or.
So, just a question that come up in mind from what Scott has said to Mike through the chair, that did the landowner assign us the land along the face of that property in case we have to go in there in 6, 7, 8 years and rebuild that road because of the traffic? Because that is our due diligence as a municipality. If the road does start to take a beating, it's up to us to go in there and upgrade it or rebuild it, not the developer. But at that time, do we have the frontage to do that along that parcel?
So through the chair, I off the top of my head, I don't know what the answer to that is. Typically, we don't have road widening or road acquisition easements as a condition of development permit because this parcel was subdivided a number of years ago, and
That's true, but they're improving on it. They're increasing everything that has to do with the road. So if we have to go in there and rebuild the road, are we going to be held hostage to go through there because we haven't got an easement on his property to go through that and rebuild that road?
We'd have to confirm with the title information and with the land agent if we do have easements on that from a previous application. To my knowledge, we don't. So.
And we're just getting the TIA numbers right now.
Okay,
So just
fair
bear
enough.
with us. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, and I see the reasoning for that. I just don't know if it's within our purview to have that, because with this kind of development, long-term solution, I see where Mr. Armstrong is going with that, because if we do have to eventually work on that road, it'd be forward-thinking of us to have that in place.
I also think it would be forward-thinking, though, if we can anticipate based on current traffic counts that the road is going to need upgrading, that should be at the developer cost, not at the cost of our ratepayers.
Well, every development that we've done over the years, we always get road acquisition on the whole quarter for a 3-4 acre parcel for that reason, so that we don't get held hostage when we try to go through there with a reconstruction project.
So how does that look? How does that, does it go on your land title?
Yep.
Does it, yeah?
Yeah, it gives the municipality the right to that frontage
That
when they're
portion.
going through there to rebuild a road.
Yeah.
Controls, how would I say, controls the costing better.
Yeah.
Gives you that access, easement.
Yeah, so through the chair, like we similarly do in the subdivision application, it's two documents, both the road widening, which allows us to, an easement onto that land to perform work, as well as the potential for up to 5 meters of road widening purchase at fair market value. Basically, we take those two agreements and we caveat them on title, and then any future owners are tied to those conditions as well.
I was kind of thinking out of the box here with this dust control and everything. Is a road use agreement a better document for this, or better to do it this way? Start probably this way. Just trying to think out of the box here, because we had road use agreements with different developments over the years, and it kind of, because that kind of, it's a changing document as staff deems fit.
Right, and through the chair, that's a conversation we've had for a number of years here in the county. We've gone back to basically the most enforceable method is through the development permit condition, and being able to tie that back to enforcement measures that we have in the land use bylaw. Road use agreements are typically short-term intensive hauls that we require developers or applicants to come in and they start, they finish, and they're done. They're a lot easier to enforce under the development permit conditions.
So while we're waiting for that TIA information, so with the dust control that we've looked at, will we have to address application rates, or will we leave that up as per what? Because I know in our other ones, there's 2 applications a year usually, depending on use, and I imagine this will be absorbed fairly fast because of the use, or it could go the other way. I'm not really sure, but how will we address a second application to get it? Should we address it in this document?
Through the chair, it might be cleaner if we do it through that, because we do, it's basically left up to the satisfaction of the public works at that point. Lots of roads require 2 applications per year to be fully dust-free, and even sometimes 3. We've had 3 applications on some roads per year, depending on the intensity of traffic on there. So if the board would like to place either a limit or a number that they would like to see on that. In the past, we have done just 1 application per year as a condition, but it's basically up to the board if they want to see a minimum of 2 or leave it up to, still an option, leave it up to the Public Works review as well. Discretion of Public Works.
Myself, I would probably see a limit of like of 3 or something like that, and then at the discretion of, because some years are different than others. And I wouldn't want to have a hard and fast that you have to do 2 or 3 when you may not be necessary at all. So something in that regards, wording. I don't know how the board feels on that, but.
Very true.
Sounds fair, yeah.
And then while they're still looking, I guess Mr. Armstrong had some wording there about emergency response plan. Was it correct?
That's already.
That's
in
already
there.
on there.
We're good? Okay. Just reviewing everything.
I like your idea with a maximum up to 3 applications, and anything over and above that is up to councils to, otherwise they could go in there 6 times and just keep billing the poor guy.
Yeah.
So if you put a maximum on it, then anything over and above that has to come back here for, shouldn't be any more than discretion of Public Works up to a maximum of 3 applications.
And as far as dust control goes, in a number of our hamlets, we did dust control in the surrounding areas around it because of dust from adjacent gravel roads going into hamlets. I can think of Muirfield, even the North Road gets done because it drifts in onto golf courses and whatnot. So I don't, to me, it's not unreasonable at all.
So do we have any idea sort of what the cost is going to be of this, like a yearly cost for dust control?
So with the 12,000 feet
Not
at
our concern.
$3 a feet, you're looking at 38,000 each application. If you're doing that 3 times,
Would it not,
be
okay,
cheaper to pay?
that being the, say, would it not be, would it not free up administration's time, Public Works time to force something like a modified road oil, something that is a permanent or semi-permanent, because we know we're not going to have a weight issue on this. This is vehicular traffic. There's not a lot of, but they should work that way. And then it's at what is $300,000 a mile, somewhere in that cost. Just let's have them do it and get it done, because like you say, if they're doing $100,000 a year,
If not more.
then, you know, I'm just thinking that, and then we've got to oversee this thing and all that kind of stuff. Let's put a permanent road structure in here or permanent dust control in here and be done with it.
What MPC we're here to do is to basically mitigate concerns. Cost isn't really a factor. Address the concerns of adjacents, address the concerns of the developer, and whatever we see fit.
But if we put in a permanent dust control,
That's up to the developer if they.
but if we put in a permanent dust control, we mitigate one thing
I
completely,
understand what you're
right?
saying, yeah.
Yeah, so if you were to, it'd be like 115,000 a year for dust control.
Mr. Kester?
I agree, cost shouldn't really be it's dust control we're worrying about, and it's at a minimum of calcium chloride. It can be equivalent as approved by Public Works. If they want to pave it, I mentioned before, that's up to them to do the math. We don't tell them what kind of, anything else, how they develop it. It's our road, we want dust control on it. If it takes 3 applications, it takes 5. I mean, then they have to consider that part. But it should be, I would like it in there to the satisfaction of Public Works, dust controlled. And if it gets dusty out there, we get complaints. We'll phone them up and they'll have to fix it up. We get complaints about garbage blowing around, coming from somebody will go out and visit them. That's how we deal with everybody else in the county. We're not treating them special or any way else. It's dust control. And just, they can make up their own minds how they want to apply it.
Fair enough.
So I'm in favor of adding to the satisfaction of Public Works.
Would there be any limits on that, or you just want to have it just satisfaction of
Dust
public.
control.
Okay.
They put oil on, and if it stands up, even if it doesn't stand up with our new policy, it's $3 a foot or something for the reapplication. I don't know what that cost is, what the county's commitment is, but it's probably in the long run cheaper than calcium, because you'll probably get a couple of years out of it. Especially on a reapplication, it's maybe going to last longer. But it's their decision.
Just to remind everybody, some people can't hear, so please speak into the mic, including myself. So do we have any traffic, the TIA study, any information numbers?
So through the chair, just a couple points there. Further to Councillor Eichert's conversation about the dust control. We have looked at oil, and the reason we went with a dust abatement as a calcium, just as a recommendation, was because there is some heavy industry on that road south of the application. So that's why we've recommended a more pliable dust control than the oil right now. So just to that point. As far as the traffic impact assessment, so there was two versions submitted. There was one in February of 2018, performed throughout the winter months. At the following SDAB meeting, there was a recommendation that this update be performed in the summer months when there's actually applicable traffic traveling that site. So the two reports were both submitted. Looking at specifically at the intersection 901 and 254, type 3 intersections were recommended as a requirement under both of the background information as well as the future information. So basically that shows that that intersection does not meet the current standards regardless of any development, newer or existing. So that was a requirement, or that was a suggestion by Bunt through their traffic impact assessment. Reminder that this site is, the application is basically for 64 new lots. Nothing, the existing sites have been approved and are in existence right now. The traffic impact was only referring to the 64 lots, and the traffic is quite minimal on that based on increased traffic for it. Not to say that you can't look at the site as a whole, but this traffic impact was primarily focused on those 64 new lots. So that's where our condition has been modified, basically more like a condition at the request of Alberta Transportation, as they haven't commented on this to date, and it is basically their infrastructure that's substandard in this whole application here. That's why we've modified it to more at what they require. If they're requiring the developer to install that type 3 at their cost with no cost sharing, primarily we're ensuring that the county's not going to be on the hook for the cost of this. If it's developer, AT, or a combination of the both. As you see, the both traffic impacts show that intersection is substandard today. So just a little bit of background on that.
So clarification for myself then, we go with what's here. 5 years down the road, AT says that has to be upgraded for whatever reason they have, because they have the authority over that highway. Is that coming back to our cost? Because they can do a traffic impact anytime they want, if I'm like on their numbers. I've seen that. I'm just thinking of Highway 24 and 1. You know, if you put more development there, that can trigger other things, and the costs associated with that, I don't want to see something that we permit now without any future changes, and AT decides that needs upgrading, that it comes at the expense of our taxpayers. That's what I want to protect from. Does that make sense?
Can you put the proposed edit back up again, just for reference?
So through the chair, the amended condition 9 is here with the addition of, where'd it go? This one. Just scooch that up there so you can see them together. So this is the amended condition 9 to update the TIA to the reasonable satisfaction of the county. And then prior to occupancy of the 64 sites, they shall implement the recommendations in the TIA referenced in condition 9, all to the reasonable satisfaction of Wheatland County and Alberta Transportation.
So they'll have a chance to review the updated, and if there's no impact, there's no impact. Correct. Okay.
My only concern with that is it being September and when they're going to update that TIA. There were previous concerns about the timing of the TIA and trying to project. And I realize engineers are experts at this, but still trying to estimate projections based on, say, a winter traffic impact assessment now going into kind of non-prime camping season, and just how that will all play out. Like, I prefer the original clause 9, where it's just saying prior to the occupancy, they shall construct a type 3C. I don't think it's plausible to consider that traffic impact is going to be reduced. I mean, I see some rationale here with the store, like I recognize that with the store being built, and I think it's excellent what they're doing with propane and things like that, and I understand that the RVs are for the most part going to be permanent, but that doesn't mean that the traffic, you know, like Mr. Armstrong was saying, people are still going to be in and out of there frequently, and that's going to have an impact. So I just don't see how it's reasonable to assume that an August 2018 traffic impact assessment is going to, that we're going to see lower traffic counts or lower impacts from that. I don't see a rationale for that. And the notes about reducing the number of sites, that was done when they purchased this, I believe in 2017. So that should have already been factored into that August 2018. We are talking about a 20% increase in permitted sites. So.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, traffic impact assessment is somebody does not go out and count cars. That's a traffic count. A traffic impact assessment, somebody actually estimates how much turning movements there are, provided on the local geography and the amount of residents that are there and whatnot. Is it an actual count or is it a assessment?
So through the chair, there are a couple different methods of it. I believe, and I'll have to confirm with this, that there were counts taken in the peak AM and PM periods. They take 1 hour section and count the amount of cars there and then expand that over the full day to get their estimated counts. So there is minimal, whereas our traffic counts, or many traffic counts are a 1 day, a 1 week, and then broken down over the daily average on that. So there are, as far as I understand, physical counts on this, but only at specific times of the day.
Okay. Also, if Alberta Transportation approves the intersection with a traffic assessment as it was done, they can't come back in a year or two and require the county to upgrade. That's a done deal. But the next development in might be known. There eventually is a straw that breaks the camel's back, and you're stopped unless we improve the intersection. So if you make it in on that, I'm thinking you're okay, unless I'm wrong.
Does that satisfy your questions? Okay. You want to take a break for 10 minutes and bio break? Or just keep going?
Just keep going.
Keep going?
Let's finish it.
Okay, fair enough. Is there anything else the board would like to discuss? Any questions on this?
I just want to be, are we going to leave the traffic impact as the new
Well, I think what we should do is look at each one and vote on each one as we go.
For the amendments?
Yeah, like look at the amendments individually, I think would be
Okay.
the acceptable procedure.
Okay.
Unless we want to look at them as a
Oh,
whole,
that's
but
fair, yeah.
I think each one, that's why I kind of discussing them and they're writing it down as we're going, so.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. So I'd go through each one and then if anything is amended, then have the full bulk vote on the conditions as amended.
As a group, the conditions?
As a group, yeah.
Okay, so if we review what we've discussed today, and I hope you've written it down, we'll review each one that we've discussed. And then if there's any changes we need to see, and then we can vote on as a group if that's acceptable for the board. So we started out with emergency response plan. Was that encapsulated?
That's correct. So right below we have at condition, prior to construction and occupancy of the proposed 64 RV campsites, the landowner shall prepare and submit an emergency response plan to the reasonable satisfaction of the county.
Okay. Below that is about the nuisance and unsightly bylaw.
Yep, so we did include obviously that because it was alluded to and it's at the discretion of the board.
Okay.
I don't think that one's necessary. It's like we went through this before. Yeah. It's a law to follow the law. Just follow the law.
Okay. I'm hearing.
I'm okay with that. My only rationale for mentioning it was just the increased ability for then to be able to involve our development staff in enforcement versus just our peace officers. But
Go ahead.
I'm at the will of MPC.
So, I'm just trying to, we've got all these amendments, and I'm just, what are, excuse me, what are the penalties that are involved in this? Because I'm looking at Appendix A, and before we have amended it, and I see 9 violations just prior to construction, prior to occupancy, prior to construction and occupancy. So we have thank you.
It isn't good enough, is it?
Yeah, I know. It's beyond meat. It's killing me. We have a corporate ratepayer that is been less than forthcoming. Like if this was an individual that tried to do any of this, a single individual, we as the county would have hammered them into the ground and they would not be servicing. But because they have lawyers and because of the past and all that, we have passed laws or we've had a stop order in there and they've continued on. That is water under the bridge. What I want to know is, now that when we got these conditions in play, what are the penalties in place for them if they do not comply to it? Because we can say something prior to construction and occupancy, the landowner shall prepare and submit. If he doesn't do that, what is the penalty? That's what I want to know.
So through the chair, the developer is well aware that the stop order is still in force. We did send them notice with regards to that. So that is still at play. With regards to the conditions, prior to occupancy is there because that stop order is still in play. No one shall be there until all of these conditions have been met and the stop order is in there. So there's quite a bit of teeth. Now, it's imperative that after this, we do look at what is going on and ensure that these conditions are being met prior to occupancy, and we will be doing that. So that is actually a guarantee from administration that we will be ensuring that these conditions are upheld. And if they are not upheld, then we will take further action, and that action is within our bylaws, and there are penalties there. They can be financial, certainly. So we will take action, Member Eichert.
Thank you.
So back
Valid
to.
point.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, it's just a comment.
Go ahead.
It was just a, thank you, Tom, it was a valid point.
Going back to the unsightly bylaw. So the board, I'm understanding, We're good to take that out of there?
I wouldn't mind just a comment from administration on if it does add any enforcement ability by somehow. I realize it's redundant to just say you need to follow the nuisance bylaw, but I'm wondering if then you can apply it through development enforcement versus just the nuisance bylaw. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there's different consequences to not following your development permit versus not following our nuisance bylaw.
Through the chair to Member Link, it's a little repetitive. Now we know that conditions ride with it, right? When conditions are placed on permits, and the alluding to that bylaw, it is there, so it shall be adhered to. But then on the flip side, of course, we do react to that and use that nuisance bylaw as a form of enforcement as well, as we're all aware. So there are two sides to the coin. In my opinion, it doesn't necessarily add much because we do undertake and execute our nuisance and unsightly property bylaw. So we do react to that and we do enforce. It's at the discretion of the board. It doesn't really, in my opinion.
I'm comfortable with that. I think I'll be able to let those adjacent landowners know that we will be enforcing the nuisance bylaw if it's necessary, if there are nuisances that are ongoing. And I'll just point them in that direction for enforcement, so.
What's the next condition we added?
I believe it was the, I don't know if there was discussion again about the emergency response plan. This addition.
Yeah, I think the board would like to see that in there, yeah. My feeling.
Through the chair, the next condition would be the amendment to condition 8 to change the location of the dust control measures. So I have it worded so that it is along Range Road 254 north of the highway intersection to that township intersection in the form of calcium chloride or the appropriate equivalent at the cost of the landowner. And then dust control measures are to be applied on Township 230 east of the intersection of the Range Road to the intersection of Highway 817 in the form of calcium chloride at the cost of the landowner. Through the chair, the map there, those yellow lines, that would be where the calcium chloride would be applied. So from Highway 901 all the way up to that Township 230 and then east to Highway 817. Does that capture what MPC was hoping to?
Did we want to put a
And did we just,
amount?
application rates or
Application.
as per Public Works? That was just the other finite amount.
It's in there. Public
Yeah.
Works is in there.
I'd prefer to not limit it to a certain number of applications, just because then if the, like, depending on the traffic.
have
and-
Public Works involved.
But Public Works at their discretion.
Yeah.
And I also would like to see it noted that it be done at full cost recovery.
Yeah. Just to make sure.
And I don't know if there's a way to spell that out, that includes like the cost of county labor. Or if that's inherent to full
Yeah.
cost
So does
recovery.
that, if the applicant so chooses to not use county forces, if they have a private company that would do it at a different cost, is that acceptable to Public Works?
Yep, through the chair, approved contractor through our means is. if we've had
Okay,
that.
because I don't want to
Fill
limit
out
that if they,
Yeah,
as long as
that's
it's
smart.
acceptable.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes they can get somebody cheaper, better, faster than us. Maybe, maybe not.
It should be at their discretion how they do it. It just,
Yeah.
we should be ensuring it's done.
It should also say applied as required to the satisfaction of Public Works.
Yeah. So, yeah, shall be applied.
Or
as
to
a-
Wheatland County.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks good.
You just scroll down just for one
Oh,
second.
sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
there anything else we needed, we discussed, that we're missing?
Well, those are the only amendments.
Traffic impact assessment was talked about briefly, but I think it was encapsulated in what staff had.
So are we going with the draft edited condition regarding the intersection? Or what was originally drafted?
So all it's really adding is that Alberta Transportation would have final.
I think it's
assessment.
opening it up to a new traffic impact assessment,
Okay.
like an update.
We had one,
August 2018 was the latest
yeah,
update.
one was February and one was August, yeah. It's an engineering study, so I guess that can be challenged if it comes drastically different. Can it be challenged if it's drastically different? I guess I should ask. Is that the final
No, there'd
say?
be no mechanism,
Yeah.
because it would be based on.
So basically, my feeling is, if there's another traffic impact assessment and it's drastically different than the first version and the updated version, is that appealable by county? Or are we just accepting? And I hearken back to when we said as other board members and the information's presented to you. I mean, how many times do you get a report to get a different answer? That's where my thought process goes with that.
I just don't think it's reasonable to accept that the traffic impact is going to be less than it was in August of 2018. So why we wouldn't just require the intersection upgrade now? Like, unless, I'm totally open to discussion about it. I've read the developer's submission and I understand there are some factors, but we're also talking about increased development in that area.
Density is going down.
So, through the chair, obviously that amendment to 9 to the reasonable satisfaction of Wheatland County, so we need to be satisfied with regards to that revised report.
Fair enough. And if we're not, what's the process?
If we're not, let me get back to you on that.
Fair enough. I think that's basically what we need to know. Either we accept what's there or is presented first twice, or just require the upgrade. I'm at whatever the board wants to do.
I just think there's been time for the developer to prepare an updated TIA if that's what they wanted to be, for this application to be, the merit of this application to be decided upon. There was time this summer to have that prepared and that wasn't done. So I'm not sure why we would be allowing one to be done between, I'm assuming they want occupancy of this next spring. I have concerns with that.
Okay.
We should be looking at the application as it's presented today, in my opinion. It was deemed complete.
And it was dated current? Oh, August 2nd. Right.
There was ample time for the developer to present further information for our consideration today.
Fair enough.
Agree with.
Administration.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. The board has decided not.
Be required. The administration assured us that. I have it on recording.
Sir, the information's been presented to the board. There's been lots of time to get everything in place. I will not be addressing you again. If you do talk again, you'll be asked to leave. Is that understood?
I understand.
Thank you.
Prior to the occupancy of 60.
I think we've got enough that we need.
Go ahead.
I would think when it says to the satisfaction of Wheatland County and Alberta Transportation, If Alberta Transportation isn't satisfied with it, they won't allow it. It's their road, it's their intersection, it's their improvement they're asking for. So I don't have a problem with it. I can let them do it or use the other one. Either the other one, I'm thinking they have to put the intersection in. They can prove to Alberta Environment they don't need it. It's Alberta's Environment's call in the end.
Or transportation.
Or transportation, sorry, I got environment on the brain.
Don't bring them in.
Yeah. They're probably already involved. But I don't have a problem. This is Alberta Transportation's call. It's their, why, as a county, I wouldn't supersede or ask for more than what Alberta Transportation is.
Kind of going down that road, Alberta Transportation would have asked for this at the start, I'm sure. So this was submitted by the applicant. That data is now in question. I'd feel more comfortable if Alberta Transportation had reviewed this and provide comment on it, because this is kind of a late submission, so to speak. So
The information that we currently have from transportation, their comment is based on the submitted TIA. A type 3C intersection treatment is required at the intersection. This should be placed as a condition of approval.
Through the
that
chair.
was-
No, through the chair, we haven't received comment from Alberta Transportation, and
Yes.
they didn't comment on the last one either. I just want to make sure that's clear.
that's what makes me uncomfortable.
So through the chair, excuse me, we got to be careful. It's like Glenn said, this is Alberta Transportation's roads. If they're satisfied with it and we're not and we want more ad, then they'll turn around and say, fine.
You pay for it. Yeah.
But what Member Link is saying is the information that was submitted prior to this morning, they were saying, yes, it needs to be done. So this is new information, and that's challenging, to say the least.
Maybe
because-
we need to table it until Alberta Transportation has a chance to
But as
comment
long
on
as
it.
Alberta Transportation's satisfied with it and they say they're satisfied with it, we can ask for them to reaffirm that. But I don't want to put our name in there as saying that we need to be satisfied too, because if we're not, we'll be the ones doing the work on it.
I don't know what the last traffic assessment said. I read in here that there was 320 approved and we're adding 64. Is that what the transfer assessment did, or was the assessment done on a total of the 320? Subtract the 320, subtract the 64, and then add the 64? I don't know.
Staff could.
You know what I'm
Then on
getting
the
at? Because the
increase.
original one could have been for an additional 64, but after I read this, they've doubled up some lots, and there's only going to be a total of the 320, not a 384. And if the assessment was done on an additional 64 to what was on the 320, that's probably unfair, and I can see them wanting to redo it if that's the case. Okay, so if they've took some lots away, sounds like they took 65 lots away and doubled them up, and whatever they did, and then they're going to add. So that assessment is not the same as what it was before, is what I'm hearing. I shouldn't be talking to you, sorry. That's the way I understand it, and if that's the case, that's the doubt in my mind. And if they can prove that to Alberta Environment,
And Border Transportation.
Alberta Transportation, I'm okay with that, because I got no grounds not to be okay with it. And if it's the other way around, I'm willing to let them do it again and prove to transportation. Either way, it doesn't, we're doing our due diligence that they have to prove to transportation. And if they don't like it, transportation, it's their call.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm a little vague on the original application, if it included the combination of those lots that we had seen and what had been reviewed prior through SDAB and everything. If that was the original, what that report was based on, I don't know that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But in this application, there is reference that some have
Yes.
been taken away.
Yes.
So that's all I'm going by,
Gotcha.
okay?
Okay.
There's another assessment done, the county's not doing the assessment. That's done by the developer. And if they feel like there's been a change, there has or there hasn't, they have to prove it too.
I don't know if staff can speak to the timing. I'm trying to find where I read it and I'm not seeing it. My understanding was that the amalgamation of some sites was done when the current owner took over in 2017. Is that accurate? I can't find where it was stated.
It's page 41.
Through the chair, from what I understand, I believe there may have been a consolidation of about 11 lots. So originally there was 266 was the original application, then it was amended to 254. So that's a little bit less, or a little bit more than 11 lots, I apologize. So the original campsite had 266 lots. Through the consolidation of some of the lots, it's now 254. So that's 12.
Oh, right. Okay.
14.
So I'm hearing some members are okay with what staff has presented this time. Some members think we should go back and go with the original, what was submitted to the board. And I'm not really sure where I sit on this one. I'd really like to have information from Alberta Transportation. Would give me more of a comfort level that they have reviewed that, and if they deem that they accept that new a study is necessary, an updated study, then that's fine, because they're the ones that are controlling that intersection, not us. That's where my comfort level is. And if they have valid information that goes to them and they can, the developer can satisfy that, then by all means. Kind of guessing here.
Through the chair, what's involved in getting that from
Sorry, the
18?
2016 tax assessment shows 321 lots prior to our purchase. We're going down in density. I'll leave because I'm getting kicked out.
Okay. So what's involved in just contacting Alberta Transportation? It's just a matter of contacting them and having them give you an answer.
So we could have some subject to review of AT.
Yeah, and as
we
the
could present.
planner mentioned, we're going to follow up with them again as well
It kind
to
of
get
says that
some
in that.
response from AT.
Yeah.
Any more discussion?
Do we want, are we going to, thinking of tabling it or just getting it done?
Go ahead.
Okay, did I hear Megan say that Alberta Transportation hasn't commented yet?
That's correct.
That's correct. I haven't received a comment from them. I followed up last week and again this morning and haven't received anything. They may have gotten back to me during the meeting. When I looked back into the previous development permit, I noticed they also hadn't provided a comment then. I was kind of hoping to be able to pull it from there to see, we could gauge maybe what their comment was, but unfortunately I haven't gotten anything.
Okay, so we can just add a condition to the satisfaction of Alberta Transportation. Then we can move on. Now Alberta Transportation it'll be more than a comment. They'll have to approve it. They have to approve it anyway. That makes sense?
I agree with Amber. I think it would skip a few steps if we just make it, the approval of this goes with approach.
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. If I could say, just through the chair, I would suggest adding a addition to that condition basically that all costs would be at either to Alberta Transportation or to the developer, leaving the county out of it, just to make sure that they don't come back and say, yeah, we'd like to have an intersection upgrade and you're on the hook for 50% of it. So if we could put that right in the conditions here, I think it'd be clear.
Thank you.
I just got, excuse my ignorance, but if we leave the original number 9 and just say they shall construct a type 3C intersection, that is, if they disagree with it, that is appealable, right? Thank you.
Does the board want to vote on the amendments that we kind of have discussed and there's not much disagreement on, and leave this one separate as a voting, or do we want to vote it as a whole? All the amendments?
We need to vote on the application.
I'm fine with all of them in there, and just vote it as amended.
So then we have to refine this last one. So I'm hearing from different members that we want to keep the original intersection in there.
What's imprinted up there?
Yeah.
And let them appeal it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That make there it is. I'll leave number 9 as is.
You should go through, vote on the end if you don't like it. Then
Can we just have a quick review of all the changes, the amendments, and then we'll get it moving forward here?
Through the chair, am I understanding that we want to keep condition 9 as is?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. I'll delete the other examples.
What? Wait.
So through the chair, we're amending condition 8, which was originally the dust control, which piecemealed where the dust control would go on Range Road 254. And this is the new condition 8.
Okay.
Okay. And then we are adding a condition in regards to the emergency response plan that the landowner is to prepare and submit one to the reasonable satisfaction of the county.
Okay.
County.
And then we're leaving the one that's as submitted.
My preference is just to look at the application as it's been presented, or to table to get the information from AT if we need updated information for them. If staff could comment on the concerns from AHS regarding the water and wastewater servicing, just confirmation that conditions 5, 6, and 7 will kind of solve any potential issues that they see with the design of the water and wastewater systems.
Through the chair, to date, we haven't received any of the engineered drawings nor approved them.
Right.
So the idea is that through this development permit, they will be required to submit those engineered drawings. The county, if they're satisfied, will approve them. And our engineer obviously will take into consideration Alberta Health Services concerns. So in my opinion, I do believe that, yes, these conditions do satisfy that.
That was my read of it too. I just wanted staff's opinion.
So you're of the opinion that we should table this until we hear back from ETU on the intersection?
Or make a decision based on the information as it's been presented in this report.
Which essentially, if we keep
Number 9 as is.
as is, that does that. As amended, I should say, because as staff had presented a change.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's an as amended vote
Yeah.
or a tabled vote. There's
Yeah.
different things, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, if it makes MPC more comfortable, we could amend condition 9 to add to the satisfaction of Alberta Transportation, if that sits better with you folks.
That makes sense, because they'll say their last report still stands, or they'll change it, one of the two, and it'll still be at their.
And I would like it noted, like amended to include at the cost of the landowner, so that it's very concrete in there.
Okay, so everybody's reading that?
That was what it was before, but looks good.
So we need a motion to accept the amended
I'll move the amendment.
as a whole. Everything as is presented, as we've gone through.
All the amendments.
All the amendments together? Okay. Any discussion on that?
We're just voting on the amendments?
Yeah.
The amendments to the whole document?
Whole document?
Yeah.
Is that what we're voting on, Jason, or just the amendments?
It was just the amendments as a whole.
So is it to approve the development permit as amended?
As amended.
Yes, I'll move that.
That's it, yeah.
Sorry.
I'll move that.
There's a reason I asked.
Fair enough. Thanks for the clarity. Any discussions on the motion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Alrighty. I think we will take
Can we take a 10-minute
a
break?
10-minute break before we go into subdivision applications. Call MPC back to order at 11:04. We'll move on to subdivision applications. We'll be in front of us will be file number SD 2019-016, subdivide plus or minus 5 acres from parent parcel. And I guess we don't have anybody to present right at the moment.
The board can bear with me here. I just got to pull up some files.
Just let her do it.
No rush.
Well, there's time to rush. I've got lunch.
Whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. Apologies for the wait, MPC. So the current application we have here is SD 2019-016. The purpose of which is to subdivide plus or minus 5 acres from the parent parcel of Southwest 20, 24, 25 west of the 4th. The subject parcel is accessed off of Range Road 255. And it's staff recommendation that MPC choose option 1 to approve the subdivision application 2019-16 with the conditions noted in Appendix A of the planning report. So the purpose of the application is to subdivide plus or minus 5 acres. The proposed parcel contains a residence garage and a shed. There's an existing water well and septic tank contained on the proposed parcel that services residents. And it was redesignated to country residential on May 1st, 2019 in order to facilitate this subdivision. The remainder of the parcel is zoned Ag General. So I will scooch down to the map for you guys. So that's the location there, just west of Strathmore on Range Road 255. And the aerial imagery. So it generally aligns with the SSRP, RGMS, and MDP. Though all three discourage fragmentation and conversion of agricultural land, the majority of the parcel is remaining agricultural general, and this will be the fourth subdivision in the quarter section. An appraisal was obtained in order to determine the cash in lieu owed for the municipal reserve. The fair market value was determined to be $6,500. The final amount of cash in lieu owed will be determined once the final plan of survey has been submitted. Circulation was completed to all landowners within a mile of the subdivision, and at the time of writing this report, no comments were received, and to date, no comments have yet to be received. No external agencies had concerns, and the county's transportation department requested a new paved approach for the remainder parcel. So MPC has two possible considerations: to approve the subdivision application SD 2019-016 and to refuse it. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions, comments, concerns?
I have one question to staff. Are we not, when these start coming in, when I was looking this over, I'm thinking, man, there's a lot of development along that road. Are we not looking, when they make these applications, at starting to consider a service road for these applications? Because if the west side of that road starts to develop, you're going to have an approach every 100 feet, 200 feet. Does it make sense, or at least restrict the speed? Because the speed limit on there is still 80K, right?
So I guess through the chair, from my perspective here, we have done service road requirements in the past, primarily on multi-lot subdivisions. Those are a better option for accesses off the road, that sort of thing. For this individual parcel here, I don't see a need to start that. And truthfully, they are quite a hindrance to the Public Works Department, because once we have them construct them, they are turned over to the county. They are county road allowance there. We have multiple small roads like this that do take up quite a bit more time for grading and that sort of thing. Looking at this one, we reviewed it, and the sight lines are fine. An additional approach off this road is not a major concern. So I would lean towards, on this application, away from the service roads. Service roads and county-owned subdivision roads are kind of frowned upon as far as I'm concerned.
If I may.
Mr. Wilson.
I'm sure you guys know where I stand on multiple subdivisions, as I'm pretty consistent. However, if we were to zoom out and look at this road as a whole, I think we've already indicated this is where we want some urban development, some residential. I don't think that, I would rather see it clustered like this in 80, 20-acre parcels all along the same road, rather than spread out God knows where in the county, because then you have certain issues regionalized to a sense. So I fully support this, and that's why I don't see the need of a service road going in, because we can, like, with a road like this, we could lower the speed limit to 60 because it is a residential road. And we should just look at something like that as a niche for people like that, I believe. So
yeah, I'm not speaking against the application or the need of a service road. I'm just wondering if we've considered that, and if development starts on the west side, which it probably will, of that road, then I think speed at least should be a reconsideration, and we consider it, as you said, as a residential area, and speed or put the limits on the traffic movement accordingly. Just for the future. I wasn't expecting to see a service road on this, but
anyone else?
Well, if anybody, I'll move that MPC choose option 1 to approve subdivision application SD 2019-016 with the conditions noted in Appendix A.
Okay, there's a motion before us. Any comments? Questions? Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Our next is file number SD 2019-017, subdivide plus or minus 1 2.5 acre parcel from the titled area, southeast 12, 22nd, 26th, west of the 4th. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So this application, SD 2019-017, is to create a plus or minus 2.5 acre parcel in order to allow for a gravel stockpile and equipment storage for the use and purposes of the Canadian Pacific Limited Rail Line. It is on Block ABC 4610AV within the southeast 12, 22, 26 west of the 4th, adjacent to Township Road 221A within the hamlet of Carsland. So I will just scoot down to the area map there. Those are the subject lands and the area plan and the site plan. So this parcel is currently zoned Hamlet Industrial and is within the hamlet of Carsland. The lands are currently undeveloped. There's no area structure plan currently for the hamlet of Carsland. Therefore, the county statutory and guiding documents provide direction for the development of the community. The intent of the subdivision is to create a smaller parcel for the purposes of a gravel stockpile and equipment storage for the use and purposes of the CPL rail line that's there. A drainage report was provided as part of the internal circulation request. The study concluded that drainage from the study area would not measurably increase the rate of volume of runoff discharging from the parcel. At the recommendation of the county's contracted engineers, staff is proposing a drainage easement be registered on the parcel. So that was a recent conversation, so that is an added condition. And I will pull it up for you guys to see, maybe. There we go. And we'll talk about that in a second. The proposed wording of the condition is shown on the screen. At development permit stage, the development officers have the discretion to request further studies in order to aid their analysis of the proposed uses. At the time of writing this report, one letter of concern regarding the stormwater management on the site was submitted from an adjacent landowner. Staff has reviewed and discussed the site, proposed uses, and the submitted drainage plan, and are satisfied with the initial findings. The county currently has a stormwater management plan in progress for the hamlet, which will make an effort to address the stormwater management issues. Agency circulation resulted in AHS requesting further information on the proposed developments, which staff obliged. No further comments were received from AHS. Internal circulation resulted in the request for a drainage study. It is staff recommendation that subdivision or that MPC approve subdivision 2019-07 with the conditions noted in Appendix A as amended. Of course, there are two options for MPC to approve or refuse SD 2019-07. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion?
I find it I'm curious, and I find it funny how certain storage facilities and developments require scenic view sheds, and others don't. I mean, you've got this right beside the egg ground, not the egg grounds, but the ball diamonds. And I don't know. I play ball there on Tuesday nights, and I don't know if it would be very good to look at a big pile of gravel with a bunch of piles of machinery sitting there. And we've got developments out of my neck of the woods that we made them plant trees and put up fences for neighbors that are 2 miles away. So I'm just really curious why we're, especially within a hamlet or just outside, why we're having double standards.
So vegetative buffer.
Yeah, some
fencing,
sort.
Landscaping.
line of sight stuff. Yeah, understood.
And I don't know if we can go back, but the CPR owns everything east too, and currently they're there, and I do feel it's becoming unsightly, and we're trying to do something with Carsland, but I know that isn't what's in here, so I don't know if we can somehow put that in there that some kind of fencing or beautification be done to help the hamlet. I know we put one in on an acreage that had a mechanic shop that had to put in a fence, and yeah, that was my point too.
So through the chair, to Member Bigger, are you, just for clarification, like a landscaping plan of sorts to the satisfaction of the county? Is that, if they submit one prior to?
My concern were generally along that lines too, but with gravel storage becomes heavy equipment operations and maybe hours of service, being that it's next to a hamlet. If they're starting to load out in the middle of the night, things like that would become complaint driven for sure. I know there's a lot of car shuffling around there as well, but if there's backup beepers going loading and unloading, and I could just foresee some problems.
There's a train that goes through every night too, but I mean, we can't control them. I hear it from my place and I'm 2 miles away.
I understand what you're saying, but this is a different use than what's already there. People are used to a train going by, but having a dump of gravel into a car or into a, I mean, there's noise related with that. I don't know if there's kind of some conditions we can put on hours of operation.
Through the chair.
Okay.
Sorry, it might be more appropriate. They do have to come forward with a development permit application for the gravel stockpile. It might be more appropriate to have the hours of operation for that development versus what the subdivision is.
Along with, and
And a landscaping plan, yeah.
That makes sense.
that'll be good. I just wanted to bring it up.
Anyone else? Okay.
I move that the MPC choose option 1 to approve a subdivision application SD 2019-017 with the conditions noted in Appendix A of the planning report.
Sorry, through the chair, there is the proposed amendment as well to include the overland drainage easement.
Right.
I apologize.
Yep, as amended.
You're 4, we'll figure it out.
There's a motion before us. Any discussion on the motion? Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Our last one in subdivision application is SD 2019-015, Southwest 6, 2824 west of the 4. Subdivide 1 plus or minus 8.03 acre parcel from the titled area. Whenever you're ready.
Good morning, MPC members.
Morning.
Purpose of this application is to subdivide 8.03 acre parcel from the parent parcel Southwest 6, 2824 with access off Range Road 250. Staff recommends that the MPC choose option 1 to approve the subdivision, SD number 2019-015, with conditions noted in Appendix A. So the purpose of this application is to create a new title area from Southwest 6, 2824. It has an existing residential development, as you can see. Existing residential development as well as 2 shops and some grain bins previously permitted in 2009. Due to the size of the parcel, staff are not recommending redesignation, so it will remain agricultural general. The proposed subdivision generally aligns with South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, as well as the Regional Growth Management Strategy, Municipal Development Plan, which all discourage the fragmentation and conversion of agricultural land. The parcel remains zoned agricultural general under the land use bylaw. An appraisal report conducted on June 26 determined the land value for municipal reserve as $5,400 per acre. The final amount will be determined based on the final surveyor's plan. Upon circulation, no comments were received from external agencies or adjacent landowners. So staff recommends one of two options, or option one, which is to approve subdivision SD 2019-015. That concludes this presentation. Free to answer any questions.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
You mentioned $5,400. On condition 3 here, it has $5,000 on my computer.
Are you looking at Appendix A?
Appendix A. You can change that to the $400, make it consistent with your presentation. Okay. Then I'll move the application.
Which, just for clarification, which were you changing? The 5?
Well, it says 5,000 here, and this presentation says 5,400.
Okay.
So I would prefer the 5,400.
I'm sure he'd prefer the 5,000. I'm sure he'd prefer the 5,000.
Not here either.
So just through the chair, the per acre value of 5,000, this is what you're alluding to?
Yeah,
And then it was stated 5,400,
right.
right? Okay. And
What is the correct number? I should ask that. That maybe be.
Find out after the survey.
Yeah. Well, the value.
we'll just look that up here.
Look it up,
Yep.
whatever the value was on the report.
Absolutely. Yep. Just 1 second here.
Through the chair, the correct amount is $5,400
Is that what it is?
through the appraisal report.
Well, that's the value we'll use then.
Yes.
With that, I'll move it and you can finish discussing
As amended?
as amended.
Okay.
I don't know if it's amended or corrected.
As amended.
As amended.
We have a motion before us on the floor. Any discussion on the motion?
Where are the bins going to end up?
The bin on the property line has been moved through the chair.
He's harassing you.
Don't worry, that stuff comes back to bite you in the ass.
We've already had a meeting about his bins.
Is that a serious question you want an answer to? Okay, so strike that from the record. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. Entertain a motion to adjourn. If there's anything further.
Before we adjourn, could I ask council to stay for an in-camera with Mike and Matthew?
Not technically, but.
Not technically, but we can happen to stay around for a bit, for a visit.
That's why I'm asking before we adjourn, because I'm asking for the in-camera now so that it's part of the record that we're in camera.
Except we're MPC right now.
I don't.
Going camera's NPC, I don't care how we go in there, it's still gonna be.
If, just through the chair, if it's with regards to a development matter,
Is.
okay,
Oh, perfect. Look at that.
So are you putting a
We
motion
just-
forward to go to camera?
We just,
Okay. Mr. Armstrong has a motion forward to
would
go to
just-
camera pertaining to development.
here, just wait.
Oh,
I would actually, yeah, I would just actually, for MPC, just motion to adjourn, and then we can linger.
Or we should amend the agenda, like in addition
Yeah.
to the agenda.
what's,
We'll just do this. Just everybody stay. I move to adjourn.
okay, motion on the floor to adjourn. All in favor? Carried.